I have milk, Dave. Can you milk me?
That's a fascinating way to start the show.
Yeah,
But
I'm trying to think of the best intro for this movie. That's what I got. What's up, Cine folks? How y'all living? What's going on? What's going on? Happy October. By the time the show comes up, I cannot believe we're already in October.
It's been the longest year.
It's been the longest. That just will not end.
It
But
will.
what's up? Welcome to Back to the Classics, the Cinematic Movie Podcast that takes you back to the iconic films of 20 years ago on the Big Three: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and of course now adding to the Big Three, now the Big Four, Pandora. Of course, you can watch us on BeatNetworkOnline.com as well. I am your guy, Jay Alonzo. With me, of course, is
Danger Neff, Dave Danger Neff. And how you doing, partner?
In one word,
Busy.
tired.
Yeah, I bet.
But yeah, I was busy earlier. Now I'm just tired. How about you?
I'm cool, man. I mean, the Lakers are in the NBA Finals?
Basically in the finals for the first time since what, 14?
And it's been 6 years, yeah.
Bro, I mean, and it's well fucking deserved. Now at this point, I can feel like they're doing it for Kobe, but they're doing it for a bunch of different reasons. Like, you know.
But no, you're right. You're right. It's definitely for Kobe, and I'm glad that it's kind of culminating to that.
Right.
You know what I feel about talking a little bit of sports? There's not a lot of movie news going on. You down for some sports?
Yeah, before we get into that, so as far as pushbacks, not even pushbacks, Disney's Soul is still on track to come out on in November.
Yeah, we'll see.
I'm really looking to see that that's gonna either go to Disney Plus or they're gonna push it back.
No, I think so.
Yeah.
There's just not, unfortunately, there's not a lot of stuff that's kind of come out. Netflix keeps pushing out some original. Enola Holmes just dropped. I haven't seen it. There's a laundry list that I have of stuff that I really need to watch. And to be honest, movie theaters have been pretty quiet. So there's not a lot to really talk about. The Craft 2 trailer dropped today, and I haven't yet seen it, but I kind of early saying there could be some potential there.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's something we can cover on a future Up to Date show. Maybe we'll get on IG Live and talk about that here in the next couple of days. But
the Lion King 2 has been announced. Who gives a shit?
No, nobody gives a shit. It's the worst piece of property I've ever seen from Disney ever. And no, I'm not mincing my words there, people. I already know that I got my haters from Low Down Dirty Shame. The Lion King Disney live action remake was garbage. Hot garbage. Why do I want to see emotionless lions again? I don't want to see that. You don't want to see that. If there's not a lion that's getting nipped in the balls like that one meme came out, I don't really care to see what's going on, to be honest.
Not to mention, no Jon Favreau. They're going with Barry Jenkins.
Less of a reason for me to watch it.
Whoa.
Less of a reason for me to watch it. Real quick, let's talk some sports. For the second time in this city's history, we have a team that's in the finals of their respective sport. I'm, of course, talking about the Las Vegas Aces, coming from behind from a 16-point deficit and pulling out a Game 5 win over the Connecticut Suns, I think is their name. Sorry, I'm not that well versed into the WNBA. I remember when we had Chelsea Hopkins on the show, and I really want to get like her input onto this because I know she's back in town. I know that she's been kind of plowing through all this WNBA talk. So hopefully we can reach out to her and kind of talk, shoot the shit on that. But
I actually just talked to Chelsea. Oh man, I would say about 2 weeks ago. She had just run me just to say what's up, and then we kind of shot the shit about as far as what she's been up to. And she's been heavy on the WNBA, like all over the place, you know. So because like you said on the show, that she has so many friends that play for different teams and all that, and So she's been on it, for sure. So I'm curious to see what she is now. So yeah, you're right. We should get Chelsea back on the show very
Keep in
soon.
mind, she is an MVP in her league.
Mm-hmm.
She's just killing it. So I'd love to get her pick and her notion on this to kind of talk more about that. The Las Vegas Aces will be playing the Seattle Storm, who were last year's WNBA champions. So it should be a good one. These are the two top teams from their respective divisions coming up. Of course, the Lakers, big up to them, man. I'm really happy about it. I want to talk Doc Rivers real quick because the Clippers has mutually agreed to part ways with Doc Rivers from the Clippers.
Which I find to be kind of bullshit, but
Tell me why.
because the thing is, and I'm not rooting for the Clippers. Matter of fact, Clippers to me is whatever. When it comes to LA, there's one team, and that's the Lakers. But I feel as if Doc has so much respect in the league. He has so much insight on the game. He should have been at least allowed one more good season to really pick up the pieces where they fell short. I mean, they made it all the way to just before the Western Conference Finals, and
Right.
I feel like because of that, Doc is at the very least allowed to redeem himself. I mean, granted, investors, people who invest in the team and all that, they want to see, they want championships, and I totally get that. But when you say the name Doc Rivers falls under that coaches, those recognizable coach names like a Phil Jackson, like now Steve Kerr who's now a coach now, and it's just I feel like with everything that he's given to the game, what he's given to that team, Doc Rivers has now really turned that team around. So the fact is, I think he's at least allowed one more good season. And if that season didn't work out, all right, well, then y'all part ways. But for him to be cut that Monday, I'm not feeling it.
Fair. Real quick, it was mutually agreed upon. So that's what's being reported. That's definitely mutually agreed upon. Doc Rivers has been with that team since 2013.
Mm-hmm.
That team has not gone to a Western Conference Finals. And you can't tell me that there hasn't been talented Clippers teams for sure. I mean, they had CP3 in his prime, Blake Griffin when he was healthy, DeAndre Jordan. There were some real guys there that play their hearts out and couldn't find a way to get to the WCF. This is also Doc Rivers, who hasn't won a title this decade. Doc Rivers hasn't won a title since like 2008.
Right.
So I kind of understand the reasoning, but I'm also with you a lot. Rivers is definitely a more respected member of the team. You could also throw in the Toronto Raptors in there. I've always thought Budenholzer was one of the more respected people, even though he does tend to team hop Steve Kerr, obviously. And of course, if we're going to get into it, we got to give credit to Frank Vogel. Frank Vogel in his first season as a Lakers coach was get them to the NBA Finals. So want to give a little bit of credit to them. I know a lot of people would say, well, that's LeBron's team. LeBron's the one that's doing it. Yeah, but he was able to get Dwight Howard back into pretty good shape. He was able to get Dwight Howard. We're talking Lakers hated Dwight Howard. And
I hated Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard comes to Lakers.
I hated Dwight Howard. I was pissed at him. I was pissed at him for being such a selfish jerk.
But
I gotta give credit to the GM and I gotta give credit to the coach because they were able to get him to buy into the system, and that's part of the reason why they're back in the NBA Finals. But enough sports talk. Enough previews of future shows. I would love to start if people will ever give me a chance. Let's talk movies again. Where are we taking this back to?
Taking it back to October 6th of 2000 with now at this point the comedy classic Meet the Parents. Original release date October 6th of 2000. Shares opening weekend with Bamboozled, a Spike Lee joint, Bootmen, Dancer in the Dark, Digimon the Movie, Get Carter, and Tigerland. Production budget $55 million with a box office total of $330.4 million. 84% on Rotten Tomatoes, nominated for 1 Oscar for Best Original Song by Randy.
Yeah, I kind of saw that go. Talking about that weekend, there was a lot of names that were listed there, and I've seen Bamboozle. I think it's kind of whatever. Get Carter, I also think is whatever. Ironically, Tigerland, of all of those movies, is probably my favorite of that entire group. You ever seen Tigerland?
I have seen Tigerland.
It's kind of underrated. It kind of breaks the Colin Farrell stigma a little bit.
Well, see, now I feel that way about Bamboozle. I feel like Bamboozle is one of those movies to where if you get where Spike is going with this movie, it makes total sense. Now, what it is, it's a satire hidden within an agenda as far as exposing, if you will, how the TV industry actually works, right? And the things that take place in that movie, number one, I think it's probably one of, if not the only, Damon Wayans like dramatic performance. But at the same time, you have Jada Pinkett in there, you have Tommy Davidson in there, same guy, Michael Rappaport. I feel like Bamboozle is probably one of Spike's underrated, more underrated films than others. Like I'm not gonna say Chirac is better, but it's certain movies that Spike will do that just kind of just brings him out even, and the movie ends so shocking. I haven't liked Bamboozle.
I think it's messy. There's ways to do good satire, and I think the movie's a little messy. That's all. That's all I can really say upon it. It's okay. It's nothing awesome. It's just okay. Meet the Parents, though. It's not that I necessarily think that Meet the Parents has aged that well. It's the fact that I think I've aged well with Meet the Parents. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was, 13 when this movie came out, it was kind of funny. Some of the later scenes in the movie definitely got me laughing more than the earlier scenes. Mm-hmm. But it all kind of boils down to, how relationships work and how awkward it is sometimes to kind of meet your parents, or to meet the parents of a significant other, especially someone that, you really care for. So, Jay, what was the most awkward moment, non-sexual, if you wish, to kind of help you out there, with the parents?
Oh, wow.
With the parents of a significant other, doesn't have to be the current girl you're dating, excuse me.
Well, with my current girlfriend, me and her mom was pretty chill actually, but it was actually meeting my high school sweetheart's father, in which case, in their old school, I had to ask him for the permission to take his daughter to prom.
Sure.
And he had knew about me for quite some time. I remember going over there, and he actually took the day off work to have this meeting with me, and he did the typical.
Hold on. He took the day off of work to come.
He took the day off of work to meet me, right? And he did the typical thing that a father who is also a cop. Oh no, sorry, take it back. At the time, he was a correctional officer.
Sure.
Now he's a cop. But never forget it. The mom, her mother loved me. I've never really talked to her pops up until this point. Walk in the house, everybody just leaves the room, right? And of course, super cliche, he's sitting there cleaning his gun, right? And like, I love my daughter very much, and and I was like, in my mind, I'm like, is he doing this to intimidate me?
Of course.
I'm like, we have guns, you know what I'm saying? But obviously, and now that I'm a father to a daughter myself, I totally get it. For sure. I'm pretty sure whenever I get that, hey, Dad, this is my boyfriend, woo-de-woo, I'm going to be sitting there cleaning a machete. You know what I'm saying? Definitely polishing off a bazooka or something. I said, just letting you know,
Nice
you
touch.
fully, I'm blowing up your house. 100%.
All right. So mine was, of course, ex-girlfriend. It was actually probably my first ever girlfriend. And look, this was still when I was a really awkward teenager. Um, she and I never even kissed her, because it was like I was in that awkward teenager phase before I became the danger nephew. No. So I went over to her house. They invited me over for dinner, and I was there all day. It was Sunday, and I remember this because it was football. And the dude asked me, I don't even remember his name. That's how bad it is. I remember the girlfriend's name. I don't even remember his name. The dude asked me straight up, was like, how do you feel about the Raiders? And I failed at that question. I kind of trashed the Raiders a little bit. And I was like, I don't care for them. I think that they're severely overrated, blah, 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 blah. This is like 2003, by the way. All right. So this was like the Raiders had just gone to the Super Bowl, and now it's like the year after. So they're kind of whatever. And I was like, I always thought it was kind of overrated. And I just kind of start trashing this guy. My awareness was tunnel vision, because what I should have done was taken a look around the room, because in his kitchen, above his kitchen cabinets, surrounding all over the kitchen is Raiders gear. Like I'm talking, I don't know what, like I don't want to say bobblehead, because I think there were bobbleheads, but little action figures of like Raiders players, that I used to be able to collect. I think there was like a scarf up there and whatnot. So here I am in this man's house. He's invited me over for dinner, and I'm trashing his team without realizing who his team is. Yeah.
Why is it that fathers like to meet the girl's boyfriend and then talk sports?
Because I think it's a generation.
It's the most manliest thing to do.
I think it's a general. I mean, what else are you going to talk about? So you fucked any girls lately? I mean,
well, look, because the girl's father meeting him, Mike, he's still cleaning his gun, and he asked me, so who's your team? I'm like, so you're gonna ask me who my favorite team is after you clean your 9mm? But I said I don't really have a football team, but I'm from LA, so I love the Lakers. I've loved the Lakers since I was able to understand basketball and all that. Sure. But I said really my thing is I love movies, and he was like, oh, like movies, yeah,
Bro, you should have fucked with him. You should have been like, not really so much of a sports fan, a really big water polo fan.
Oh, you know what sports I love to play? Badminton.
You know what I really like hitting the shuttlecock right over the net.
Yeah, badminton's where it's at.
You know what? There's this new sport that's coming out. You ever heard of this curling? Like you take a broom and you sweep.
That's about golf. You like golf?
What is that? Ultimate frisbee, that it's a real sport. So this movie this movie kind of really hits a nerve, especially now, because anything that could go wrong for our main character in this movie, does. There's no redeeming in a lot of sense how he does. So Gaylord Greg Fokker is a nurse living in Chicago, played by Ben Stiller, and he intends to propose to his girlfriend Pam Burns, who's played by Terry Polo, but his plan is basically disrupted when they were invited to the wedding of Pam's sisters, Debbie. And this wedding is in like 2 weeks, and it's just like kind of like one of those shotgun weddings. So I think it's a little weird that the parents are just like, oh yeah, no, Debbie's getting married. So yeah, so Debbie can just kind of come over and get married, in 2 weeks. no questions whatsoever, which, it's kind of whatever. But, and they travel out to their parents' house over on Long Island. So Greg decides to impress Pam's parents first and propose to her in front of the family. But this plan is put on hold when the airline company loses his luggage, which contained the engagement ring. So instead, he bought a gift. And in this gift is like a Jerusalem lily.
Right.
The reason why this was kind of important was like Greg was really trying to like impress them by being like, this is like one of the most rarest flowers in the world. And Jack, who is played by the legendary Robert De Niro in this movie, is just kind of like everything that Greg kind of does, he's kind of questioning him. Or as he finds out more information about him, he's kind of like using that a little bit as ammunition. Not in so much of like trying to ridicule him. He's just trying to say, this is the person my daughter is living with, is in a relationship with, and they're out here at my house right now. Right. And it's pure insanity. So at the Burns house, of course, Greg meets Jack and the mother, Dina, who's played by Blythe Danner, and their beloved cat, Jinx. And like almost the first thing that gets blurted out is that Greg does not like cats. And it's just like, it's kind of like, like your girl, like throwing out that you're not a big sports guy, or you're not a big, oh, Jay's not really into sports. What? Yeah, I am. I'm totally into sports. What are you talking about? It's not that I'm not so much into sports, it's that I never played sports in high school, it's shit like that, right? But it's like the girlfriend kind of threw him under the bus, like almost immediately with this.
You know what's funny about the cat thing? Because I've also fell into that same situation before as well. I was dating a girl in LA, and it wasn't too serious, but we were pretty tight. And I went by at the time she lived with her mom, and I think her father like just close to there, right? And so I pulled her to pick her up, like, come in, my mom. I said, all right, yeah, cool. Walked in there, and then we were talking. There's no signs of a cat anywhere. Nowhere in the house. And so we were talking, and then typically moms typically love me. You know what I mean? Because I'm charming. My personality shines and all that.
Sure.
So as we're sitting there talking, and so she goes, "So where you from? Yeah, any pets?" I'm like, yeah. I said, "I'm a dog person. I fucking hate cats." And if you see the way her face kind of like drowns out, right? It gets better. It's almost like when I said I hate cats, the cat pulls up like, what the fuck you just say to me? Like one of those situations, right? The cat makes it his agenda to now fuck with me the whole time I'm there. Like the whole time I'm there.
Like you saying you hate white people, me coming around.
Yeah.
I know.
You know what? I hate Mexicans. I was like 40 Mexicans show up and shit. You know what I'm saying? But it was like cats. And we just don't get along.
In this episode, and pull out a thing of the worst things that Jay and Dave have ever said. And that's just going to be a whole thing. It's going to be an out of context video that somebody's already working on. So Jack, of course, becomes immediately suspicious towards Greg and openly criticizes him for his choice of being a male nurse. And I gotta say, that's kind of a bullshit thing, man. Like, how are you going to criticize my career choice? Like, it's not like is food being put on the table? Is there a roof over your head?
Very true, very true. However, but for most people, especially way back in the day, like until you knew that there were male nurses there, you looked at nurses like, well, that's a woman's job, right?
Which is fair in 2000, in the year 2000, but like 20 years later, like I know a decent amount of male nurse, and yeah, sure, I'm sure some people would prefer doctor, but a male nurse out here makes like $78,000 a year. Easy.
Right.
Of course, it takes a long time. It takes a long time to really make that kind of money, but as with all jobs. So anything he see Jack with anything else he sees as a difference between Greg and the Burns family. Greg is trying to do this thing where he's trying to impress Jack, but every single time his efforts fail. Like they go to the gas station and he's trying to buy the most expensive bottle of champagne that they have, and it's like $13.95. And it's like, of course, they're not gonna you're not gonna get $80-$100 bottle of champagne there to do so. So of course he grabs it, and the end of that first night was a little awkward because they have dinner together. Well, it was very awkward. They have dinner together, and for me, this may be my most iconic scene because there's nothing more awkward than family dinners. Because family dinners is like, most people don't sit around and kind of talk about everybody's day. Most people are trying to decompress from their day. They want to watch some Jeopardy, or they want to watch some TV or something, and just kind of whatever. Even my family dinners, sometimes I don't want to talk about my day. Sometimes I just want to see what's on the television. So when they have this like really, really nice like prime rib or roast. No, it was a roast that they had. And Greg's over here, and they're kind of discussing like certain things, and they get to the topic of milking a cat for some odd reason. And the reason why is because Greg mentioned that he had grew up on a farm, right? Because he had grabbed a mother's breastfeeding, he grabbed like a magazine that was talking about raising children, right? And so it kind of spirals into this lie again. Of course, Terry Polo, his girl doesn't back him up at all, and was like, "No, he didn't. He grew up in Detroit." And he was like, "Yeah, but like it was like ancestral on a farm." And so Jack goes and he like asks a question, and he's all like, "Well, have you ever milked anything?" Goes, "Yeah, I've milked a cat before." It's like, what? It's like the most insane thing you ever heard. He's like, yeah, and he plays it out. He's just like, she was, she had she had kittens, and there were like 30 of them, and decided to just go, and one of the little rut really needed some help to get some milk, so I grabbed her nipple sandwiches. It's like, what are you doing? So of course Jack, no problem, says, I have milk. I have nipples, Greg. Can you milk me? And it's like, oh my God, it's the most awkward thing that you hate to listen to.
Right.
And it doesn't get any better because Greg mentions an obvious urn that's sitting up upon a mantle, and he goes, "That's a nice vase." And Jack gets emotional and says, "Well, that's my mother. She died some years ago now, but I miss her every day, and she stays here for family dinner." And, so of course, making it worse. And then to top it off, he goes to open the bottle of champagne, and the cork hits the urn, falls down, and it shatters everywhere. And then the cat goes and pees on the ashes.
Mama!
Yeah, you're nailing it, dude. You're killing it. That night they go. That night after separating for the evening, he overhears. Greg, of course, overhears Dina and Jack kind of talking about him, and he winds up slipping from his chair, and a secret door opens up. Well, in that secret door, of course, there's like lie detector information. And it's a bit weird. He's very weirded out by it. Jack comes walking into it and doesn't really admit that he was CIA, even though he later finds out, but decides to give him a polygraph exam. Would you agree to have a polygraph exam?
Dude, I'm not gonna lie to you. Going back to the high school sweetheart's dad when I met him. It was so weird the exchange was. Because this is a guy who, he's a nice guy. Very, very nice guy. He's one of those guys who just never smiles or laughs. But a welcoming presence, he just never, and for me, so even way back then, I can say something and get a giggle out of somebody, or more importantly, like my girl's parents. But I would say something and he just, right? So I'm telling you, at one point I thought, and thinking about this movie, I'm like, is he gonna pull out a lie detector test on me pretty soon? I felt it coming. I hella felt it coming. And it's crazy because now he's a cop. And shout out to him. I'm not gonna say his name, but shout out to him because he now reaches out to me practically all the time just to see how I'm doing. You know what I mean? But now I'm 32 years old now. Back then I was 16, 17.
Right.
I'm not going for that shit no more.
It kind of reminds me also a little bit of with one of my former relationships, bro. I remember sitting with him, and I was trying to do everything possible to connect with him, but it didn't help that I was an asshole, so I wasn't really helping myself there. Over the years, he and I have gotten better. We don't really talk now, but I'm sure if I was to pop up at their place, they'd be more than happy to see me.
Oh, yeah.
But bro, at one point, it was only me and him watching the 2004 Super Bowl between the Eagles and the Patriots. And it's literally just me and him. Do you understand how awkward it is to have a big gathering event like the Super Bowl, but instead it's just you hanging out with your girlfriend's stepdad, and he doesn't really care for you? It wasn't really working. So later, so the next day, you get to meet the rest of the group, which you basically find out everybody is incredibly successful or a doctor, and it makes Greg feel like an outsider.
Right.
And again, despite his efforts to impress the family, he's such an easy target for ridicule. At one point, they decide to kind of go to Owen Wilson's house. Who plays Kevin Raleigh, who's a wealthy broker / carpenter, also the ex-fiance of Pam, right? Who, by the way, is also going to be at the wedding, right? So everything is all awkward there. This guy is fucking amazing. His house is gorgeous, and then he builds this beautiful wooden altar from one block of wood. He's just super chill and super cool, super wealthy as well. And they decide to go and have a swim, which again, Greg could have easily backed out of this, but he decided not to. Also, people got to remember this is still 2000, so weed back then was kind of frowned upon, for whatever reason it was. And at one point, Greg is caught with a pipe because he borrowed it from his fiance's brother, and because he's a pothead, because he was the dude from Scary Movie. I can't remember his name. John Abram. John. Yeah.
Bobby.
As they're swimming in this pool, they have this volleyball game, and Greg sucks. Totally, completely doesn't look like he's ever played the sport before. Finally, he gets a good spike ready to go, and he hits the bride right in the face and breaks her nose and gives her a black eye in the process. I mean, there's blood everywhere. So eventually, that evening or the next morning, they wake up. The Burns backyard is filled with sewage as you find out that Greg has used the malfunctioning toilet, which floods the Burns backyard with sewage, and then afterwards sets the wedding altar on fire, and also loses the cat Jinx. All in this process in a very, very short period of time. At this point, I don't know why he's not kicked out.
Keep going. I'm going to run to the bathroom. Folks, you're not going to hear me pee, but just keep talking. I can hear you.
Fair enough. So After several misunderstandings, Jack believes that, of course, Greg is big into marijuana because, Denny basically frames him from there. When he loses Jinx, he decides to, everybody's having this horrible time. The next day is supposed to be the wedding. Greg decides to go and to try to get in the good graces of everybody, to get back into that inner circle of trust, is what was said. Goes to a pound and sees a cat very similar to Jinx, except he had spray paint on the end of it, he had gray hair on the end of his tail. Greg thinks nothing of it, decides to spray paint the tail, make him look like Jinx, which also happens to mess up the entire house, even though the real Jinx is later found. By now, the entire Burns family, including Pam, agrees that it is best for Greg to leave Long Island until after the wedding concludes. And desperate to save himself, Greg reveals he has seen Jack engaging in like some secret activity with shady characters and is planning a secret mission after the wedding. But of course, that's not the case. He was planning a surprise honeymoon for Debbie and the fiance. And Greg has just basically dug himself into like this abyss of bullshit at this point. So, unwillingly, Greg decides to go to the airport. And this is a little awkward. This movie's already pretty awkward, but keep in mind, this movie came out October 6, 2000. This movie came out October 6, 2000, and the events of 9/11 would obviously happen within the next year. And Greg decides to have his huge speech of basically, it's not like I have a bomb in this suitcase. It's bad. When you look back on it, it's pretty bad. Greg, of course, gets detained. You can't say bomb on it. You can't say bomb on an airplane. Where Jack
this is pre 9/11, so even though there were strict men, but after 9/11, no way.
No way. So as he's detained for insisting that his luggage stays and says bomb at the airplane, Jack attempts to convince Pan that Greg was basically lying about everything, but he does prove to actually be a little bit of a genius, at least when it comes to medicine, as he did take the MCAT, the Medical College Admissions Test, which is considered one of the hardest tests in the world to actually take, and was in the top 97 percentile, but felt that nursing was just a better fit with him.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, Jack comes back and basically kind of gets him to come back after some convincing from Dina, because one of the things Dina said was who's going to be good enough for Pam? You didn't even like Kevin, and Kevin is basically perfect, but you didn't even like Kevin until after they broke up. Right. So realizing this, he comes back and rushes to the airport, gets security to release Greg, and brings him back to the house. As Greg is proposing to Pam, Jack and Dina, listening on their conversation from another room, agreeing that they should now meet Greg's parents, though both are visibly worried about this. After Debbie's wedding, Jack views footage of Greg, recorded by hidden cameras that, of course, he placed all around the house, in which Greg calls Jack a psycho and mocks him and exposes Denny as a true marijuana user.
Can you deal with that?
It's not the strongest ending, I'll be honest. But yeah, that's pretty much Meet the Parents. It's trying to keep this short for you guys.
As told by Danger Neff. So, all right. So obviously, Dave was the one who led this show off for sure today. So we're gonna get Dave's takeaways. So Dave, that guy work.
It's kind of hard not to give it to Jack, but I'll give it to Greg. Ben Stiller Ben Stiller is doing everything that a hopeless romantic is trying to do to win the affections of the parents, and fails miserably, which may also make him my that fool award very quickly. So yeah,
That chicken work.
I cannot give it to Pam. Pam shitted on him as much as fucking possible to a point where I'm like, dude, can you back her? Can you back him up?
But this
Like,
is funny about you bringing that up. How Pam kind of like left Greg out to like hang on his own. I was with Skylar the other day, and he was watching. Skylar's a fan of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I
sure.
like the show as well. I don't watch it very often, but he had an episode on to where Sam Burr's character is meeting the parents of I can't think of her name, but he had dedicated himself to try to make her look good as best as possible. Because she has a brother that's like just all around, just all American, just good guy. You know what I mean? And so Sandberg pretends to like choke it. He jumps in, tries to like help him out and shit. It's the total opposite of what Pam did for Greg.
Right. Pam's the kind of person that's just like, no, that's my husband. He's a fucking idiot. And it's like, yo, like you kind of have to set like immediately like she throws the cigarettes over the roof right when they get out of the vehicle because smoking is a sign of weakness. No, it ain't. Smoking is smoking. Smoking is a sign of weakness. The dude's a nurse. He works 12 hours a day in triage. In triage. Triage is impossible. But no, he can't be a smoker. No. So I'm not going to give it to Pam. I don't think there is that chick in this movie. Everybody kind of messes with. You know what? I'll give it. I'll give it to. I'll give it to Dina because at least Dina was able to talk some sense into Jack finally. Because Dina could honestly see that the guy was trying as much as possible. But no, it is definitely not Pam.
Mm. That full work.
I gotta give it to Greg. He is my that guy and my that fool. First time I'm ever doing this because, bro, you had rules. I get it. You know, you're trying too hard to impress, and at the same time, like you're failing at everything. Did you ever just think to take a moment, step back, and just say, "I don't give a fuck," and just kind of move on from there?
But you gotta give him credit because I know for me, my my patience can be very, very thin. But also at the same time, when you look at the person you're dating, then you meet the foundation of where they come from. It's like if this is your parents now, so this must be you in the next 20 years. Fuck that. I'm out.
It's one of those things that you can try and you can try very hard and you can still be found likable. I don't necessarily think that Jack necessarily likes him by the end of this movie.
Right.
I think once you get to like the second one, Jack kind of starts coming around to him. But it's like this whole meeting was an absolute disaster. Plus, however much damage you've done to the fucking everything, like
Right.
I don't know how Kevin's not coming after you after you just said they carved this fucking thing out of one wooden block. Like, so yeah, you're gonna be broke, dude. Um,
Cut that out.
uh, I would honestly cut out Denny's character. There was no point to him ever being there. The whole marijuana thing is kind of whatever because it wasn't even marijuana that set the altar on fire. It was cigarettes. So I would have actually preferred this to be more of a story on like cigarettes more than like a story on marijuana. So Denny's character is absolutely useless in this movie.
Mm. Does it hold up?
Yes and no. Um, yes, it does because I think everybody can kind of take away something from this movie. No, because I also feel like I also feel like people wouldn't find it nearly as funny as was 20 years ago. I think some people would be like, "Oh, this is seriously just like one bad day," you
Right.
know. It's just I don't think this movie has a place for in today's world because it doesn't fit anymore. But so you know what? I'm just gonna say no in general. There's still something to take away from the movie, but no, not anymore.
And iconic scene.
Probably has to be the first dinner. That first dinner was legitimately funny. Anything that could go wrong did go wrong for Greg, and the whole little nipple thing is so awkward. I just for me this almost was like a prelude to that awkward comedy that you get from like The Office, right? For some people, The Office is great. For others, like myself, I think The Office has moments where it's really funny. Um, but I also think that the movie, I also think that the show's just okay. I never even finished The Office.
Super, super dry humor.
Right, and so that works for certain movies, but you also have to have an actor that can be a little super zany with it. Okay, Jack Black in this role probably does a little bit better than Ben Stiller in my eyes because
Okay.
Jack is kind of just seen as like a natural fuck up naturally, but you also know that he's immensely talented. So I don't know. That's my eyes. Let's get into some quick hits. Wrap this thing up.
I got mines loaded up. Here we go.
Good.
At one time, Jim Carrey was slated to star as the lead and even contributed jokes to the screenplay, such as the main character being named Fokker.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. Jack's high is extremely poor, and he is constantly repeating the word "what," making it seem like it is a longer conversation than it is. This applauded Robert De Niro's effort, however.
Robert De Niro wanted Mr. Jinx to appear in more scenes than he was supposed to because De Niro liked the cat so much. Apparently, De Niro would also play with the cat between filming scenes.
Christopher Walken was the second choice to play Jack Burns, which I kind of like that idea actually.
If it was Jim Carrey and Christopher Walken,
Ooh, actually, that's really good. That's really good. But you have to have a sexy actress.
yeah. There we go. So let me see. Um, Ben Stiller flew out to Los Angeles to propose to Christine Taylor while shooting the film. She thought he was still in New York City. He surprised her at home with a path of candles and rose petals. Smooth.
This movie is actually a remake of Meet the Parents 1992, an independent film. The 75-minute short film stars Greg Gilena and Mary Ruth Clark, who also wrote the script. Gilena also directed the film on a budget of about $100,000. Unable to find a distributor, they eventually sold the rights to Universal.
And my final one, the home video footage of Terry Polo during the opening credits was filmed by her ex-husband, Anthony Moore.
And on July 18th, my birthday, 2005, a regularly scheduled American Airlines flight from Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport to San Juan, Puerto Rico was diverted back to Fort Lauderdale 40 minutes into the flight after a bomb attendant found a crumpled napkin that read bomb, 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 meet the parents. The airplane was met by a bomb squad out of the local sheriff's office as well as the FBI, whose agents questioned the plane's 176 passengers about this note. About the note. This incident likely references the plane scene in which Greg is kicked off the plane for saying the word bomb.
Well, everybody, that is Meet the Parents as told by my guy, Danger Neff. Next week, we have a guest on next week?
Maybe. I actually think we do.
I believe we do. As always, we want to thank you guys for always rocking with us. Always holding it down for Bachelor Classics, as always. Right. And Dave, where can they find you?
You're going to find me checking their fucking schedule right now. You can always find me on IG and Facebook and Twitter at David Danger Neff. I'm the host here at Bachelor Classics. as well as please look out for IG Live for Fireside Chats. That is the chat. That is the chat that I basically have, where it's a reflection upon the previous week, hosted by me with invitation to Jay whenever he can hop on. Sorry about the late one last night.
Really
Football
late.
messed up. What's that?
Oh, that was pretty late.
It was super late, and I don't want to get into that. I don't want to get too much into. I don't want to do that anymore, basically. So I'll try to turn it into a morning thing so everybody can enjoy football just like myself. I got Jay Alonso. Where can you find him?
You can find me on all social media simply at official Jay Alonso on IG, official Jay Alonso on Twitter. Excuse me, and Jay Alonso on Facebook as well. Alongside Fireside Chats, we will try to squeeze out an IG Live reaction to the Craft trailer. We'll probably do it tomorrow or sometime this weekend, but we will definitely get that trailer reaction out there for you. Of course, FOH is doing fantastic. Every Sunday on the Beat Network Facebook page. Jump in, check that out. Of course, our Back to Classics Movie Talk page and Movie Talk group on Facebook. Jump in those, have a good time with those. It's almost like we don't even run them anymore. Like the fans can run it themselves, which is pretty awesome. And with that being said, it's always a pleasure to hang out with you, Cinder folks. I cannot believe it's already October. We have 2 months left. Get out there and vote. As we did the show tonight, we watched these two dudes debate. Just a bunch of noise. But besides that, get out and vote. It's utterly important to get out there and vote. And with that being said, we will be back next week with another one. There's not a guest on next week, but next week's movie is it's a deep one for sure. But with that being said, this is Back to the Classics. I'm your guy, Jay Alonso. With me, of course, is
Danger Now.
Brother, I love you to death, man. I will see you next week.
See you next week, bud.
Peace.